Now that we've kind of touched on what is an ADU, and I think a lot of people would see value in that, let's kind
Yeah.
of touch on some of the differences between what is a prefab ADU to a regular ADU, and how does that benefit consumers. And then after that, we can kind of go through the steps of like what are the steps like to basically install a prefab versus a regular ADU, and to see if it's actually simpler for somebody, you know?
Yeah, so you're an investor listening to this, or you're a homeowner, and you're saying, "Wow, I didn't realize that I had like constitutional right in the state of California to build an ADU. I have a garage, I have a basement, I have a big backyard. Like, what's the best approach? I definitely want to add more space that can be separately rented or separately used by family.
Mhm.
What are the different approaches?" Well, either way, you're doing construction, and
Mhm.
usually, I like to bucket this into sort of three buckets
Mhm.
when you think about what is my approach as a homeowner or as an investor to construction. The first bucket is traditional sort of stick building.
Mhm.
And that's, wood framing and
Yeah.
insulation. And it's a very well understood process. Lenders are very comfortable with it. There's a lot of GCs out there. You call up your local architect, your local structural engineer, your local GC, and you just build it in series, step by step. You do your site work, you lay your foundation, you frame out the walls, put in the insulation, do the drywall, do the roofing, finishes, fixtures, permitting, the whole shebang. The way I think about stick building in terms of trade-offs, it's going to cost way more money because you have an army of subcontractors that all have margin they need to take on the project. You need extremely highly skilled labor, right? You need like expert carpenters and expert roofers to do this work for you.
Mhm.
You're not buying materials in bulk, and you're trying to orchestrate this complex construction project. So it ends up being much more expensive, usually by about double
Mhm.
other
Wow.
methods. Oh, for sure.
Oh, wow.
It's
Okay.
very expensive, right? And it depends on your local geography of exactly where you are, what the local costs are. But
Mhm.
it's like building a Toyota Prius in your driveway with a team of 20 guys over 18 months, right? It's
Yeah.
not going to be the world's most efficient process, and there are going to be costs associated with that. I'd rather build my Prius in a factory with machine-like precision, and buying my materials in bulk and what have you. So the other trade-off on the positive side with stick building is you get completely custom designs, right? You can work on exactly the design of the unit or the structure that you want with an architect, and you can have the local GCs build it, exactly the way you want it. Yeah, but cost overruns, higher prices, and a lot of delays, a ton of delays in stick building. I don't know anyone who's built a house that says it was done on time. Always delayed. So that's stick building. The next bucket is what I'd call sort of like prefab modular. So this is building a unit offsite in a factory
Mhm.
and then shipping that unit and installing it at your house. And the last bucket I'll eventually get to is manufactured, which is similar but has some key differences, which we'll chat through. So in this second bucket, like prefab and modular, we're building all or some of the unit offsite in a factory, whether that's building a wall and then shipping and stitching the walls together or an entire unit. There's a lot of efficiencies with this prefab process, right? It takes about half the time. It tends to be dramatically less expensive because you're buying materials in bulk. You have machines and precise engineering doing the work in a climate controlled environment. The cost of labor tends to be a lot less because you need less skilled workers to work the machines. And it can still be somewhat flexible depending on whether you're doing a panelized like system or building entire units. But in this second bucket, we're building to state and local code, and that has some problems. Whenever you're building a state and local code, you're dealing with state and local inspectors. And so when you're building offsite in a factory, those people can be difficult to get to come inspect the unit before it leaves the factory. And there are a lot of really burdensome requirements at the state level. Like every detached structure needs solar panels, non-negotiable, for example. But it's a good approach. It can save a lot of time and money relative to stick build. But the model that we use and the model that saves the most time and money for a customer is manufactured housing. And this is a really interesting sort of segment of the building code. Instead of building to state and local law, you're building to universally approved federal HUD building code.
Hmm.
It was a building code originally designed for mobile homes, but now has been generalized into manufactured housing.
Mhm.
It's super fast and easy to get approvals. The costs of construction are way lower, and it's universally accepted everywhere. And you don't have to do things like solar panels.
That is awesome.
And since you're still building offsite in a factory, you get all the same efficiencies as it relates to time and money. There are no delays. Everything moves on schedule.
Mhm.
Super predictable, super controllable.